Today is the Tuesday of the second week of Ordinary Time. Let me begin by reading to you the Gospel passage for today. It's taken from the second chapter of St. Mark, verses 23 to 28. As Jesus was passing through a field of grain on the Sabbath, his disciples began to make a path while picking heads of grain. At this, the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need, and he and his companions were hungry? How he went into the house of God when Abiathar was high priest, and ate the bread of offering that only the priests could lawfully eat, and shared it with his companions? Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. That is why the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." Well, what could we say about that? Today, our Gospel scene places us with Jesus and his disciples as they pass through a field of grain on the Sabbath day. Perhaps this was after they had been to the synagogue on this Sabbath day, and perhaps they were out walking together somewhere as a form of rest and recreation. At various times, the Gospels speak of our Lord taking his disciples with him away to rest for a while. Imagine being in our Lord's company as they walk along and recreate with him. Imagine his gentle company, his smiling manner, his divine sense of fun. I like to imagine them very much at their ease with him. It is obvious from various incidents that our Lord allowed them to develop at their own pace, which meant that in many respects they developed slowly. Indeed, even though our Lord could see that Judas was turning out badly, and at one point referred to him in veiled fashion as a devil, in St. John's Gospel chapter 6 verse 70, still he accepted him in this privileged band. Well then, here we are, and the disciples are proceeding through the cornfield with our Lord, and they pick ears of corn to eat. Perhaps it is late in the morning, and they have not yet eaten. There must have been others not of their company nearby, because some Pharisees spot what they regard and teach to be an infringement of the Sabbath rest. Jesus' disciples are harvesting ears of corn. This, they insisted, must be left to the working day. Now, let us observe in passing that the disciples have already learnt to look to our Lord for all their guidance on religious matters, such as the Sabbath observance. And Jesus has in turn made it very clear that he is indeed their teacher in this as in everything. The disciples have seen that Jesus does not defer to other authorities in interpreting the law, but he speaks, he teaches, he allows, and he prohibits on his own authority. And probably the objecting Pharisees sense that this is behind the disciples' free behavior. So then, the Pharisees come straight over to our Lord and challenge him on his disciples' violation of the Sabbath rest and on his own laxity in allowing it. To begin with, let us notice the tone of our Lord's reply. It is with full and calm strength, gentle in tone. He does not harshly contradict them, but replies, perhaps smilingly and without raising his voice, but in confident strength, with a question. He invites them to consider a text in the Old Testament that refers to the action of King David. He is saying that the Pharisees are giving voice to and insisting on an interpretation which is nothing more than an interpretation, their own, and one with which great saints of the sacred scriptures were not in accord. What he, Jesus, allows is fully in accord with the true meaning of the scriptures, and which he furthermore has the full authority to determine. And then Christ pronounces in their presence on the true meaning of the Sabbath. It is that the Sabbath is made by God for man, which is to say, to help man live for God, and not man for the Sabbath. He who is in their midst, and who will be in the midst of his church in the time to come, determines how the Sabbath is to be observed. And let us ask ourselves in passing, as we think of this teaching of Christ, if we are making of the Sunday the Lord's day, or if we are neglecting it. But there is more. In our passage, Christ not only pronounces on the meaning of the Sabbath, he also takes the occasion to pronounce very clearly on his own authority. While God has authority over the Sabbath, since the command to observe it came from him, our Lord tells the Pharisees that he, the Son of Man, has authority even over the Sabbath. It is one of many replies that amounted to a claim to divine authority. He had the authority to determine as God determines. No other prophet had said that he was Lord of the Sabbath. But Jesus calmly, clearly, and before hostile critics teaches this. Let us place ourselves in the company of Jesus as he speaks these words, and allow our minds and hearts to be imbued with the grandeur of his person. As the people said on other occasions, no one speaks with his authority. He is the Lord, and Lord also of what Judaic religion regarded as a linchpin of the practice of revealed religion. It was a linchpin indeed of the practice of revealed religion, and was one of the 10 Commandments of God. But Christ is the Lord of it, as of everything. Jesus Christ is Lord.